What's going on, everyone? This is Jordan with Conquering Trading and Investing, and in this video I'm going to react to this Bitcoin 2012 price forecast update. This was posted on TradingView by a user Flibflib, and the reason I'm going to go take a look at this chart is because I believe it's absolutely worthwhile for you to see and consider. I want to share my perspective with you and find out whether or not you think a plus $30,000 price target is preposterous in just 12 months. All right, let's take a look together. Now, what is interesting about this forecast, and leave a like, definitely go ahead. I'm going to leave a link to this chart in the description. Please go ahead and visit it. Read what he has written here because there's some good stuff. I'm going to give you a preview of that right now. And absolutely go ahead and smash that like button for him. Now, what really drew my attention to this chart was this reaccumulation phase he has here that is going into the halving. And I'm going to show you exactly why. I've seen lots of price forecasts for Bitcoin that have us breaking before the halving in May of 2020 to new all-time highs. I personally don't share that view. Now, of course, like all traders, I'm going to trade what is happening, not what I perceive to happen. But I do have an idea of what I expect to happen. And I'm going to share that with you in this video today. Now, if you go down and scroll down a little further, he has his first Bitcoin 12-month forecast. And you can see that it was published when the price was trading over here. And let's look at how that developed and what happened. If we go ahead and hit play, you will see that, well, it's pretty great, right? He has price more or less within a $1,000, $1,500 price level of where he expected it to be. Now, when you're forecasting price into the future like this, it's obviously a rough idea of where you expect price to be. You're not trying to pick the exact price point. And he did exceptionally well. And you see we're in the middle of this reaccumulation phase right here. Now, why I found that interesting, if you look over here at this UTXO analysts and market cycles provided by Delpha Digital, you're going to notice here, I'm going to make this really easy to understand for you. Now, before we get into it, I will define UTXO for you, and that is an unspent transaction output that can be spent as an input in a new transaction. I'm going to make this really simple so you could understand this. You could see these red lines here. These vertical lines here are the halving periods. We have the first halving 4-year period, the second halving 4-year period, and now this current third halving period, which the third halving will occur on May of 2020. The red line down here is the point when the UTXO transactions hit their lowest, when it's the floor, okay? And over here, you see the highest price point that price reached during that 4-year cycle. So you have the highest price point, and then you have the lowest UTX floor. Now, why this is interesting is because if you take from these previous two cycles, the highest price point and then the lowest price point that occurs after the UTX floor. So here's the UTXO floor, and then this yellow line right here is the lowest price point since this occurred. And if you average these two prices, the high and the low, at the halving, it was the exact average of those two prices on the first halving cycle. On the second halving cycle, you have the highest price point, and then you have the UTXO floor occur, and then the lowest price point since that happens is right here, this yellow line. If you go ahead and you add those two numbers up, the high and the low, and you average them together, at the halving, that's exactly where we were. Now on our current cycle, where we are right now, the third halving cycle, if you take the highest price point up here was more or less $19,400, and then you take the lowest price point that occurred, here's the floor of the UTXO, and then the lowest price point occurred over here in December of 2018, and it was more or less at a price of $3,200. If you go ahead and you add up those exact two prices, the average has us at $11,400, and that's where I expect price will be at the halving come in May. And that is more or less close to where he has it. He has May over here and price somewhere around $12,000. So that is more or less exactly where I see price. I expect price will be somewhere around $11,400, closer to this area he has here, consolidating before the breakout to new all-time highs. Either one, I believe is going to occur, and I'll be happy with either one of them. I absolutely love how he has this reaccumulation phase happening right now. That's exactly where I believe we are, and price more or less is going to trade within this narrow band until we get closer to the halving. Now, another interesting tidbit that was shared here, we had last Friday, we had this huge spike in Bitcoin that occurred after the futures settled. The settlement is at London time, 4 o'clock London time, and as soon as that occurred, price spiked up. Institutional investors went ahead in on backed and set record buying volume. And over the weekend, price of Bitcoin shot up, and there's this huge gap. Now, he suspects that there's a good chance that this gap will close, right? He says that there's a good chance this gap is going to close, but that fits well within his reaccumulation range, and I like that. That's solid. And he also goes on to say that there's the possibility that gap does not close, and if that doesn't happen, he says if price breaks 9,500, then it's possible that we go straight up into this next range and we will not close that gap. That's a possibility. That's why I'm including the link here so you could go ahead and read his analysis because it's solid stuff. I really appreciated viewing it myself. It's something I wanted to share with you because you see lots of uninformed traders making all sorts of predictions about Bitcoin going down, breaking 6,500, going down to 3,000, or some ridiculous stuff about Bitcoin going down to 1,000. If you study past cycles, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If you understand how Bitcoin halving cycles work, it really doesn't fit into past behavior. And although it could happen, and you want to absolutely always have the thesis adverse to yours so that you're protected to the downside and you know what your risks are, at the same time, this forecast seems really solid, something that I want to share with you. Please go ahead, visit this page, give it a full read. Go ahead and hit the like button for him. That's my view on this Bitcoin 12-month forecast. Again, he has a pretty good track record since his last forecast published at the end of July, and he has seen Bitcoin kind of trading down since then, entering this reaccumulation phase, narrowing out, and then we should be drifting upwards as we get closer and closer to the halving. That's the same price action that occurred in the last two halving cycles. I do expect it will. I believe shortly after the halving, we will then hit new all-time highs. He has us, I believe, and I believe this is correct, having us hitting it a little before. Either way, again, these are just the rough estimates of where we expect price to be at a given time in the future. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so now. Also, for me, I would appreciate if you do go ahead and hit that like button and help Google's algorithm pick up this video for other traders to be able to see as well. That's it, everyone, for today. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later.